I don't do weddings. Let me be more specific. I don't do weddings, baby showers, gender reveals, or any event where people gather to celebrate commitments they'll probably regret in 5 years. I photograph models who look bored because they are bored, fashion that costs more than most people's rent, and the occasional editorial spread where everyone pretends nihilism is the new black. I'm 29 years old, and I left Brighton Cove 11 years ago with a broken heart and a full scholarship to NYU. So when the invitation arrived, thick cream cardstock with actual gold leaf, because of course it had gold leaf, I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my cramped Bushwick apartment, surrounded by equipment worth more than my furniture. Avery Kensington requests the honor of your presence at her wedding to Bradford Worthington III. Bradford Worthington III. That's not a name. That's a trust fund with a heartbeat. The invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days, gathering coffee rings and my contempt. I'd toss it every morning, retrieve it every evening. Not because I cared about Avery. We'd barely spoken since I left Brighton Cove 11 years ago. We weren't sisters in any meaningful sense. Her mother married my father when we were both teenagers, creating this forced family tableau that satisfied exactly no one. No, the invitation haunted me because of the note tucked inside, written in my father's shaky handwriting. Chloe Bear, it would mean the world to me. Your old man isn't getting any younger. Love, Dad. Emotional manipulation wrapped in fatherly affection. Chef's kiss. I held out for another week before booking the bus ticket. Buses, not planes. I needed those 6 hours to mentally prepare for Brighton Cove's particular brand of suffocation. I left the return date open. No point committing to a specific escape time until I knew how unbearable this would be. Small towns are like that, aren't they? Pretty from a distance, toxic up close. All those quaint shops and friendly waves hiding decades of gossip, judgment, and people who've never left because they're too scared to find out who they'd be anywhere else. Harsh? Maybe. True? Definitely. The morning I left, my roommate Marco caught me packing my all-black wardrobe into a duffel bag. You look like you're preparing for a funeral, not a wedding. Same thing, I muttered, folding another black turtleneck. Come on, seaside Maine in June? It's going to be gorgeous. Bring something with color. One thing. For me. I showed him my middle finger. He blew me a kiss. In the end, I packed one concession, a dark gray silk shirt. Gray is basically black's optimistic cousin, so it counted. The bus ride felt both endless and far too short. I watched New York's concrete give way to Connecticut's greenery, then the rocky coasts of Rhode Island, finally surrendering to Maine's particular brand of rugged beauty. Each mile closer to Brighton Cove tightened something in my chest. I'd left this town at 18 with a broken heart, a full scholarship to NYU, and a promise to myself, never look back. I'd kept that promise religiously. Even when Dad begged me to visit for Christmas, Thanksgiving, his birthday. I sent cards, money, excuses. Anything to avoid returning to the place where I'd learned that loving someone openly was apparently too much to ask. But here I was, watching familiar landmarks appear through the smudged bus window. The old lighthouse. The harbor with its bobbing lobster boats. The white steeple of the church where everyone who was anyone got married. The sign welcomed me, Brighton Cove, where every day feels like home. Felt more like Brighton Cove, where everyone knows your business and judges it accordingly. Dad was waiting at the bus station, looking smaller than I remembered. 73 now, his hair completely white, his shoulders slightly stooped. Seeing him hurt in ways I wasn't prepared for. I'd been avoiding him too, and we both knew it. Chloe Bear. His voice cracked slightly. When he hugged me, my skeptic armor developed fissures immediately. This was the problem with family. They knew you before you built your defenses, remembered when you were soft. Hey, old man. You look too thin. And too. He gestured vaguely at my all-black ensemble. Stylish? Successful? Devastatingly attractive. New York. Fair assessment. The drive to his house took 10 minutes, but in that time, I saw approximately 7 people I recognized from high school. Brighton Cove had a population of barely 3,000. Everyone knew everyone, and worse, everyone remembered everything. Mrs. Henderson still ran the general store. Tommy Breslin still drove his dad's pickup truck. Sarah with the blonde hair. There were 3 Sarahs in my graduating class. We categorized by hair color, was pushing a stroller, looking exhausted and content in equal measure. I'd escaped this fate. That should have felt like victory. It felt complicated. Dad's house sat on the edge of town, a small Cape Cod with peeling blue paint and a garden that had seen better days. Mom's garden once. After she died, neither Dad nor I had the heart to maintain it properly. The Kensington mansion, where Avery lived, loomed on the hill above town, all columns and pristine landscaping and old money pretension. I'd never belonged there. The feeling was mutual. So, Dad said, carrying my bag inside, the wedding events start tomorrow. Welcome brunch, then dress fittings then. Dad, I'm just here to take some pictures and survive the ceremony. I'm not participating in 2 weeks of enforced festivity. He gave me that look. The one that said I'm disappointed but not surprised. Avery specifically requested you as photographer. She's calling you photographer of honor. I choked on air. That's not a thing. It is now. She wants raw, edgy, high-fashion wedding photos. Her words. Of course she did. Avery Kensington wanted the cash of having a New York photographer without paying New York prices. My stepsister, ladies and gentlemen, all grace, no substance. And the wedding coordinator? I asked, trying to sound casual. Dad's expression shifted, sympathy mixed with concern. Hannah Parker. There it was. The name I'd been avoiding thinking about for the entire bus ride. The reason my stomach had been churning since I crossed the Maine state line. Hannah Parker. My first kiss. My first love. My first heartbreak. The girl who'd taught me that being yourself in places like Brighton Cove came with consequences. That love wasn't always enough. That some people would always choose comfort over courage. You knew, I said flatly. I figured you'd want to prepare yourself. I'm always prepared. Lie. It's been 11 years. Bigger lie. I'm completely over it. Biggest lie of all. Dad just nodded, but his eyes said he knew better. That night, alone in my childhood bedroom, still decorated with photography prints from high school, posters of bands I'd pretended to like, evidence of the girl I used to be, I let myself remember. Hannah at 17, laughing in the school hallway. Hannah helping me develop prints in the darkroom after school. Hannah lying in the grass during lunch, pointing out cloud shapes while I photographed her instead of the sky. Hannah at my going-away party, pulling me outside under the stars. The way she'd looked at me, terrified and exhilarated. The kiss that had felt like finally. And then nothing. Radio silence. Avoided calls. A note slipped under my door that said I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. I'd left the next morning, 2 days earlier than planned. Spent my first semester at NYU learning to build walls around anything that felt vulnerable. Discovered that cynicism was easier than hope, that detachment was safer than desire. Became the person I am now. Sharp edges, dark clothes, perpetual judgment. The girl who doesn't care. The welcome brunch was held at the Kensington estate, naturally. 50 people gathered on the manicured lawn, drinking mimosas and exclaiming over Avery's princess-cut diamond. I wore black jeans, a black tank top, and sunglasses I refused to remove. Avery descended on me immediately, air-kissing both cheeks like we were close. Chloe, you made it. You look so urban. Thanks. You look so bridal. She missed the sarcasm entirely, beaming. I'm just so thrilled you're here to capture everything. I want your signature aesthetic, gritty, real, emotional. None of those boring posed shots. You want gritty at your country club wedding? Edgy gritty. Fashionable gritty. She waved her hand dismissively. You'll know what I mean. I wouldn't, but arguing seemed pointless. Now you absolutely must meet Hannah. She's been my absolute savior through this process. Where is she? Hannah. My entire body tensed. 11 years, and I wasn't ready. Would never be ready. Then she was there. Hannah Parker at 29 somehow looked both exactly the same and completely different. Same warm brown skin, same curly dark hair, though now cut into a professional shoulder-length style instead of the wild mane I remembered. Same full lips, same expressive eyes. But everything else had changed. She carried herself with polished confidence now, dressed in elegant flowing pants and a cream blouse. She held a tablet, wore discreet diamond studs, exuded competent professionalism. The girl I'd known had been all passion and chaos, paint-stained fingers and flowers in her hair. This woman looked like she ran the world's prettiest corporation. Our eyes met. For 1 second, I saw her mask slip, saw recognition, shock, something that might have been longing. Then it snapped back into place. Chloe. Her voice was warm, professional. Welcome home. I'm Hannah Parker with vows and violets. I'll be coordinating the wedding. She extended her hand. I stared at it. We're really doing this? Pretending we're strangers? Fine. Two could play that game. I shook her hand. Her skin was still soft. I dropped it quickly. Photographer, I said shortly. Yes, Avery mentioned. I've prepared a shot list for each event, and we'll need to coordinate timing for. I don't work from shot lists. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course. Perhaps we could schedule a planning session to discuss your artistic vision. My artistic vision is to show up, take pictures, and leave. How efficient. Avery, oblivious to the tension crackling between us, clapped her hands. Aren't they perfect together? Hannah's coordination, Chloe's artistic brooding. It's like a buddy comedy. More like a Greek tragedy, but sure. Chloe, Hannah will be your main point of contact for all wedding activities. She has your complete schedule. My complete schedule? I turned to Hannah. I don't recall agreeing to a complete schedule. Hannah's professional smile never wavered. Welcome cocktails tonight, venue walkthrough tomorrow, cake tasting Wednesday, dress fitting Thursday. I'm not trying on dresses. The photographer needs to understand lighting and backdrop flow. I understand lighting fine. Then you'll understand why collaboration is essential. Her tone remained pleasant, but her eyes flashed with something sharper. There she was. The real Hannah underneath all that coordination polish. Fine, I bit out. Send me the schedule. Already in your inbox. Is the email on file still current? Of course she had my email. Of course she'd already sent everything. Organized, prepared Hannah. I wanted to hate how put together she was. Instead, I found myself wondering what it would take to unravel her. Dangerous thought. Deleted immediately. The brunch dragged on endless small talk with people who remembered me as Catherine's daughter, such a tragedy about her cancer, or that artsy girl who left town. I photographed the event because that's what I do, hide behind a camera, observe without participating. Through the lens, I watched Hannah work. She orchestrated the brunch like a conductor leading a symphony, directing caterers with subtle hand signals, defusing Avery's mother's complaints with diplomatic grace, ensuring every guest felt attended to. She was magnificent at it. Simultaneously impressive and depressing. This wasn't the Hannah I'd known. That Hannah had spent hours in the art room, creating wild mixed media pieces that made teachers uncomfortable. That Hannah had talked about going to art school, traveling to see botanical gardens around the world, designing installations that would make people reconsider their relationship with nature. This Hannah coordinated weddings for wealthy people in a town of 3,000. What happened to her dreams? Not my business. Not my concern. I was here for 2 weeks, then gone. The cocktail reception that evening was held at the Harborside Inn, Brighton Cove's fanciest venue, which meant it had tablecloths and a view of the water. I arrived late, camera around my neck like armor. Hannah was everywhere, as expected. Adjusting flower arrangements, directing the string quartet, ensuring the lobster rolls were arranged at aesthetically pleasing angles. I photographed her without meaning to. Caught her in profile against the sunset, tablet in hand, profile sharp with concentration. The shutter clicked before I could stop myself. She turned, sensing the camera. Our eyes met across the room. I looked away first. Coward. Dad found me on the terrace, escaping the forced joviality. How are you holding up, Chloe Bear? Fine. Great. Living the dream. He settled next to me on the railing, both of us staring at the darkening ocean. You don't have to pretend with me. I'm not pretending. I genuinely don't care about any of this. I'm not talking about the wedding. Damn him for knowing me so well. It's been 11 years, Dad. Time doesn't heal everything. Sometimes it just makes us better at ignoring the wound. I wanted to snap at him, but he'd pulled out the wise old man routine. Hard to be sarcastic in the face of actual wisdom. She looks happy, I said finally. Successful. Like, she made the right choice. Does she? I glanced through the window at Hannah, laughing with a group of guests, perfect hostess smile in place. I don't know. I don't know her anymore. Then maybe it's time to find out who she is now. Or maybe it's time to take some pictures, survive this circus, and return to my actual life. Dad sighed. You're allowed to feel things, you know. Even complicated, messy, inconvenient things. Feelings are overrated. Says the photographer who captures emotion for a living. That's different. Those emotions belong to other people. I just document them. And your own emotions? Filed under not currently accepting applications. He kissed my temple like he used to when I was small. Your mother would be so proud of who you've become. I just wish you'd be a little kinder to yourself. He left me on the terrace, alone with the ocean and thoughts I didn't want to examine. Inside, Hannah was still working. Always working, always perfect, always controlled. I wondered if she ever felt trapped. If she ever looked at the ocean and thought about swimming until she reached somewhere completely different. If she ever regretted the choice she'd made 11 years ago. Then I stopped wondering because wondering was dangerous. I didn't do dangerous anymore. The venue walkthrough Tuesday morning was torture disguised as logistics. Hannah met me at the lighthouse grounds, where the ceremony would take place, naturally, because Avery wanted quintessential coastal Maine romance. I arrived armed with 2 cameras, 3 lenses, and a thermos of black coffee strong enough to dissolve steel. Hannah arrived with her tablet, a color-coded binder, and enthusiasm that should have been illegal before 9 a.m. Good morning. She was wearing a sundress. Yellow. With flowers on it. Who wears yellow sundresses in real life? I grunted acknowledgement, already photographing the lighthouse's stark angles against the morning sky. I thought we could start with ceremony sightlines, then move to reception setup and finish with. I work alone. I understand, but coordination is your job. Mine is taking pictures. These jobs don't overlap. She took a breath, clearly counting to 10. Chloe, I know this situation is awkward. Awkward. I lowered my camera. Awkward is running into your ex at the grocery store. This is something else entirely. We're not exes. We kissed once, 11 years ago. Oh, is that all it was? Her composure cracked slightly. I don't want to do this. Join the club. I'm president. We stared at each other, decade-old tension sparking between us. God, her eyes were still the same, warm brown with gold flecks, the only eyes that ever saw through my defenses. I looked away first. Again. Just show me the venue layout, I said roughly. She did, maintaining professional distance. Pointed out where the arch would stand, where guests would sit, optimal angles for capturing the ceremony. She knew her stuff, I'd give her that. Every suggestion she made was actually useful, photographically speaking. You've thought about this, I admitted grudgingly. It's my job to think about everything. Must be exhausting. Something flickered in her expression, vulnerability, quickly suppressed. I manage. I captured an establishing shot of the lighthouse, then another of the surrounding grounds. Through the lens, Brighton Cove almost looked magical. Almost made me forget why I'd left. Your work has gotten incredible, Hannah said quietly. I follow your Instagram. The editorial you did last month for Vogue was stunning. I hadn't expected that. Hadn't expected her to follow my career, to care about what I was creating. Thanks, I said, thrown off balance. You left town wanting to make art that mattered. Looks like you succeeded. Did I? The question came out more bitter than intended. I photograph expensive clothes worn by people who don't eat. Real meaningful stuff. But beautifully. You always saw beauty differently than everyone else. Memory hit me, Hannah at 16, holding up a piece of driftwood. Most people see trash. You see sculpture. That's your gift, Chloe. I shook it off, focusing on my camera settings. What about you? You wanted to be an artist. Now you coordinate other people's events. Direct hit. Her expression shuddered. I am an artist. Weddings are my canvas. That's what you tell yourself? Excuse me. I should have stopped. Should have let it go. But hurt from 11 years ago was leaking out, and I couldn't plug the dam. You had talent, Hannah. Real talent. You were going to change how people thought about botanical art. Now you arrange centerpieces for trust fund babies. Her eyes flashed dangerously. You know nothing about my life. No? Then tell me, was it worth it? Staying in this town, playing it safe, being what everyone expected? Are you happy? Are you? She shot back. Alone in New York, photographing strangers, too scared to come home? Is that happiness, Chloe? I'm not scared. You left and never came back. That sounds pretty scared to me. I left because someone broke my heart and then pretended it never happened. Silence crashed between us. Hannah's face transformed, anger giving way to something raw, almost devastated. That's not. I didn't. She stopped, regrouped. When she spoke again, her voice was carefully controlled. I was 18. I was terrified. I made a choice I thought was right. To choose the town over me. To choose survival over exposure. There's a difference. Not from where I was standing. She looked away, jaw tight. I'm not having this conversation in a public park while coordinating your stepsister's wedding. Fine by me. Let's keep things professional. Professional. Right. Her laugh was hollow. That's definitely possible between us. She walked toward the lighthouse without waiting for me to follow. I watched her go, hating how my eyes tracked her movement, hating how my chest ached. This was exactly why I'd avoided Brighton Cove. Why I'd built my life elsewhere. Some wounds don't heal, they just learn to hide better. I spent the rest of the walkthrough maintaining icy distance. Hannah matched it perfectly. We communicated in terse sentences, avoided eye contact, treated each other like professional acquaintances. It was absolutely miserable. By the time we finished, I was desperate to escape. But Avery had scheduled the cake tasting for that afternoon, and apparently my presence was essential for capturing the moment. Capturing rich people eating cake. This was my life now. The bakery, Sweet Harbor, because everything in this town had nautical puns, was decorated like someone's coastal grandmother had exploded. Anchors, ship wheels, and blue and white striped everything. Avery was already there with her fiancé Bradford, who had the personality of lukewarm oatmeal. Hannah arrived moments after me, and we took seats on opposite sides of the tasting table. The baker brought out samples: vanilla lavender, lemon elderflower, chocolate raspberry, and something called champagne rose. This is a collaboration, the baker announced. The cake should reflect both your love story and Hannah's vision for the overall aesthetic. I photographed the cakes because that's what I was there for, but mostly I watched Hannah work. She asked thoughtful questions about texture, flavor profiles, how different frostings would hold up in June weather. She sketched ideas on her tablet, floral cascades, and elegant tiers. When she talked about weddings, her entire being lit up. She wasn't just coordinating, she was crafting an experience, telling a story through details. It was captivating. It was infuriating. Because this was still settling. Still playing safe. Still not the art I knew she was capable of creating. Chloe, thoughts? Avery's voice jolted me back. On cake. On which one captures the romance best? I looked at the 4 samples, then at Bradford's blank expression, then at Avery's expectant face. The vanilla lavender, I said. It's unexpected. Most people default to chocolate or vanilla plain. Lavender adds complexity without being aggressive about it. It's subtle elegance. Hannah looked up sharply. That's actually perfect reasoning. Our eyes met. For a moment, the hostility faded. Plus, I added, lavender photographs beautifully. Purple and white against the lighthouse background? Very editorial. See? Avery beamed. This is why I needed Chloe. She understands aesthetic. After the tasting, as everyone dispersed, Hannah caught my arm outside. Wait. I stopped, very aware of her hand on my forearm. I shouldn't have said that earlier. About you being scared. It wasn't fair. It was accurate. Maybe. But I don't know your life now. I don't get to judge your choices when you don't know mine. I studied her face, the careful makeup, the professional polish, the walls she'd built that rivaled my own. Truce, she offered. Temporary ceasefire is more accurate. I'll take it. She smiled, small and real. This is hard enough without us actively being hostile. Hard how? She hesitated, vulnerability crossing her features. Seeing you again. Being near you. Pretending it doesn't. Doesn't what? Matter, she finished quietly. Pretending it doesn't matter. My heart did something complicated and annoying. Yeah, I admitted. Same. We stood there, suspended in admission, until Bradford called for Hannah to review the florist contract. Duty calls, she said, stepping back. Always does. She paused. There's a delivery coming to my shop tonight. Massive orchid order for the ceremony. I'll be processing them until midnight probably. If you wanted to. I don't know, see what I actually do? Beyond coordinating. An invitation. A dangerous invitation. I should have said no. Should have protected myself. What time? I asked instead. 9. I'll bring coffee. Her smile transformed her entire face. For a second, she was the Hannah I remembered, unguarded, radiant, real. Then Bradford called again, and she left, taking that smile with her. I was absolutely, definitely, completely making a huge mistake. But at 9 p.m., I was standing outside Vows and Violets with 2 cups of coffee and my better judgment in tatters. The shop was located on Main Street, in a restored Victorian that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Through the window, I could see Hannah surrounded by boxes, her professional outfit replaced by jeans and an old t-shirt, hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked more like herself than she had in days. I knocked. She glanced up, surprise and pleasure mixing on her face as she let me in. You came. I said I would. You said a lot of things when we were 18. Following through wasn't always your strong suit. Fair. I handed her the coffee. Black, 2 sugars. Unless your preferences changed. They didn't. She took the cup, fingers brushing mine. At least not about coffee. The shop was gorgeous, exposed brick walls, vintage furniture, sophisticated but warm. Nothing like the chaotic art room I remembered Hannah commanding in high school. This place is impressive, I admitted. It's mine. Well, mostly mine. I'm still paying off the business loan, but... She gestured around with clear pride. I built this. Every client, every arrangement, every reputation point. Why weddings, though? You used to mock the girls who planned their weddings in study hall. She laughed, sorting orchids from boxes. I did, didn't I? Turns out there's more depth to it than I realized. Creating beauty, crafting moments people remember forever, helping them celebrate love. It's meaningful work. But is it your work? She paused, orchid stem in hand. What do you mean? I remember your installations. Those weren't about making things pretty. They were about disrupting how people saw nature, challenging assumptions. You wanted to make people uncomfortable in the best way. I was 19 and pretentious. You were talented and ambitious. Maybe. She set down the orchid carefully. But ambitious doesn't pay rent in Brighton Cove. The wedding industry does. So you gave up. I grew up. Her voice had an edge now. Not everyone gets to run away to New York and pursue their artistic vision. Some of us have responsibilities. Family businesses to help. Communities that depend on us. Choices that aren't purely about what we want. What happened to art school? Life happened. My mom got sick senior year, breast cancer. Dad needed help keeping the landscaping business afloat. Then Mom recovered, but the economy tanked. I stayed to help, started doing event florals on the side, discovered I was good at it. Really good. Built a client base. Started making actual money. And suddenly 11 years passed. She said it matter-of-factly, but I heard the regret underneath. You're still making art, I offered. Just wedding art. Right. Wedding art. Her laugh was brittle. You know what the best part is? I tell myself that every single day. It almost sounds true now. I didn't know what to say to that. To the revelation that she'd been trapped by circumstances as much as choice. That her life wasn't the betrayal I'd painted it as, just compromise after compromise until the original dream became unrecognizable. Sound familiar, Chloe? Help me with these? She gestured to the orchids. I need to process 300 stems by tomorrow. I set down my coffee, picked up orchids. We fell into rhythm, her trimming stems, me arranging them in water buckets. The silence between us felt different now. Less hostile, more melancholic. I'm sorry about your mom, I said finally. I didn't know. How would you? You never called. You never answered. Would you have? If I'd reached out after that note? Honest answer? I don't know. Probably not. I was hurt and 18 and dramatic. We were both dramatic. Just in different ways. She paused, examining an orchid bloom. I spent months drafting texts I never sent. Rehearsing what I'd say if I called. But you seemed so happy in your NYU photos on social media, new friends, gallery shows, that whole exciting life. I figured you'd moved on. I had moved on. Or at least, I'd moved forward. There's a difference. Is there? Moving forward is about momentum. Moving on implies you've processed something. I just kept going. Built a career, a reputation, a carefully curated life. Never dealt with why I left. Which was. I looked at her directly. You know why. Say it anyway. Because I loved you. Because we had one perfect moment, and you took it back. Because staying in a place where loving you was wrong felt impossible. Her hands stilled on the orchids. It wasn't wrong. Then why did you pull away? Because I was terrified. You think it was easy being different here? You left, so you got to be free. I stayed, so I had to be careful. My parents are good people, but they're traditional. This town is traditional. And I wasn't ready to lose everything for something I didn't understand yet. You understood that kiss. I understood wanting you. That's not the same as understanding who I was or being ready to tell everyone else. She set down the stems, facing me fully. You were brave enough to leave. I wasn't. That doesn't make what I felt for you less real. Felt. Past tense. She held my gaze. Is it? Past tense. The shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. Orchids surrounded us, exotic and elegant. Hannah stood 3 feet away, looking at me like she had that night 11 years ago, scared and certain in equal measure. I should go, I said. You don't have to. I really do. But I didn't move. Neither did she. This is a bad idea, I said. Terrible idea, she agreed. You're organizing my stepsister's wedding. We're basically coworkers. Professional colleagues. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. Definitely temporary. We're completely different people now. Absolutely incompatible. So we're in agreement. Complete agreement. Then we were kissing. I don't know who moved first. Maybe both of us simultaneously, magnetized by 11 years of unfinished business. Her lips tasted like coffee and memory and something entirely new. I grabbed her waist. She wound her hands into my hair. The kiss was desperate, searching. Nothing gentle or tentative about it. This was 11 years of silence breaking open all at once. We pulled apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. That was... Hannah started. Yeah, we can't. Definitely not. The wedding would be complicated. More complicated. We stood there, not letting go, logic warring with desire. What are we doing? She whispered. Making a mistake, probably. Want to make it again? I kissed her instead of answering. Deeper this time, slower. Letting myself feel everything I'd locked away, want, longing, the particular ache of this specific person in my arms. We ended up against the wall, orchids forgotten, 11 years collapsing into now. Her hands under my shirt, my knee between her thighs, gasping against each other's necks. Upstairs, she managed. My apartment. Terrible idea. Awful idea. We went upstairs anyway. Over the next week, Hannah and I developed a routine, hostile professionalism during wedding events, stolen moments afterward. We'd fight about shot lists during dress fittings, then make out in her shop after everyone left. We'd argue about timeline logistics during rehearsal planning, then end up at her apartment, learning each other's bodies like territory we'd been exiled from and finally regained access to. It was completely unsustainable. We both knew it. Neither of us stopped. This is insane, I said one night, lying in her bed while she traced patterns on my shoulder. Completely. We're not even discussing what this is. Because naming it makes it real. It's already real. She propped herself on her elbow, looking at me seriously. Is it? Or is it just unfinished business? Nostalgia with better sex. Better than what? Than imaginary 18-year-old us would have had. I considered that. So this is just, what? Closure. Maybe. Or maybe it's two people who never got their chance finally taking it, even if the timing is all wrong. The timing is spectacularly wrong. Your specialty, apparently. You've built your entire brand around bad timing and emotional distance. Says the woman who's built her entire life around other people's expectations. She flinched. Direct hit. Sorry, I said. That was... true? Yeah. She rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling. You're not wrong. I've spent 11 years making everyone else happy. Clients, parents, this town. I'm the reliable one. The coordinator who makes everything work. Sounds exhausting. It is. But it's also safe. No one gets hurt if I'm perfect. Except you. She turned her head, meeting my eyes. Except me. We lay there in the dim light, both of us realizing we'd built remarkably similar prisons, just different architectural styles. Can I show you something? She asked suddenly. Depends on what it is. She got up, unself-conscious in her nudity, and pulled on a robe. Come on. I followed her down the hallway to a locked door I'd noticed, but never asked about. She unlocked it, flipped on lights. I stepped into a different world. The room was chaos, the best kind. Botanical installations hung from the ceiling, erupted from floor pieces, crawled up walls. None of it was pretty in the conventional sense. These were wild, aggressive, unsettling pieces. Branches twisted with wire and fabric. Dried flowers arranged in provocative shapes. A massive piece made entirely of thorns and feathers that looked like beautiful violence. This was the art I remembered. This was Hannah unfiltered. Holy shit, I breathed. I work on them at night. After everyone's asleep. When I don't have to be perfect. Why hide this? This is incredible. Because it's not commercial. It's not wedding appropriate. It's messy and weird and probably wouldn't sell in Brighton Cove. So I make my pretty centerpieces and I save this for myself. I walked through the space, examining each piece. She'd gotten better, more confident, more experimental. These weren't student works. These were mature artistic statements. Hannah, you need to show these. Galleries in Portland would kill for this. And abandon my business? My reputation? Everything I've built. Why does it have to be either or? Because this town doesn't do complicated. You're either one thing or another. Reliable or risky. Traditional or different. I've worked too hard to build trust here to blow it up with art people won't understand. So you hide who you really are. Look who's talking. You've spent 11 years hiding behind a camera, photographing other people's lives instead of living your own. That's not, I stopped. Because it was true. Uncomfortably, devastatingly true. We're both hiding, she said quietly. Just in different ways. You hide by leaving. I hide by staying. Neither of us is actually brave. Maybe we could be brave together? For what? 2 weeks? Then you go back to New York, and I go back to coordinating weddings, and this becomes another thing we don't talk about. It doesn't have to be that way. Doesn't it? You hate this town. I've built my life here. You want freedom. I want stability. We're fundamentally incompatible. We also make sense together. Making sense isn't enough, Chloe. We need to be going in the same direction. And we're not. She gestured around the hidden studio, then back toward the town outside. You tell me, where do you see this going? I didn't have an answer. Because she was right, I was leaving. I'd always been leaving. That was my entire coping mechanism. Can I photograph these? I asked instead. She looked surprised. Why? Because they deserve to be seen. Because you're incredibly talented and these need to exist beyond this locked room. And then what? You put them in some gallery in New York that I'll never see. Or I send them to galleries in Portland, Boston, places you could actually visit if they wanted to show your work. You'd do that. I'd do more than that. These are some of the most arresting botanical pieces I've seen. This isn't me being your ex-whatever trying to fix things. This is me being a professional photographer who recognizes exceptional art. She studied my face, searching for insincerity. Found none, because I meant it completely. Okay, she said finally. Photograph them. I spent the next 3 hours in the zone, the place I went when everything else fell away and only the image mattered. I photographed each installation from multiple angles, playing with light and shadow, letting her work speak through my lens. Watching through the viewfinder, I realized something. I'd spent years photographing beautiful emptiness. Fashion, models, expensive nothing. This was the first time in a long time that I was capturing something with actual substance. Hannah's work was raw, honest, challenging. Everything my recent photography wasn't. You okay? She asked when I finally lowered the camera. Just realizing I've been coasting. Taking pretty pictures of meaningless things because it was easier than risk. Risk of what? Caring. Actually giving a shit whether my work means anything. She moved closer, took my hand. I think we've both been playing it safe. In our own spectacularly different ways. Maybe that's what we needed, though. To become ourselves separately before. Before what? Before we figure out if there's a together version worth fighting for. The admission hung between us, frightening, exhilarating. Is there? I asked. I don't know. But I think I want to find out. I kissed her, camera still hanging around my neck, her art surrounding us. For the first time since arriving in Brighton Cove, I felt something other than resentment. I felt possibility. The bridal shower happened Saturday, and it was exactly the kind of event I despised. Pastel decorations, champagne, women exclaiming over lingerie. I photographed it dutifully, staying behind my camera, observing the performance of femininity and matrimonial excitement. Hannah orchestrated everything flawlessly, as always. She'd created a garden theme with subtle elegance, hanging florals, vintage china, handwritten place cards. Every detail was thoughtful, coordinated, beautiful. She was in her element, and it showed. Guests kept stopping her to compliment the event, to ask about hiring her for their own occasions. She glowed under the attention. This was her reputation being reinforced, her business growing. I should have been happy for her, was happy for her. But I also saw how exhausting it was. How she never stopped moving, never let the smile slip, never allowed herself to be anything other than perfectly professional Sunshine Hannah. Then Mrs. Worthington, Bradford's mother, got tipsy on champagne and loud. "Hannah, darling, this is spectacular. You're always so perfect at these things. Not like that rebellious phase you had in high school. What was it? Art installations. So aggressive." Hannah's smile tightened. "I still create art, actually." "Oh, of course, your wedding work. So much prettier than those strange pieces you used to make. Remember those, Emily?" She turned to another society woman. "Hannah used to make these bizarre nature sculptures. Thank goodness she found her proper calling." "They weren't bizarre," I interjected before I could stop myself. "They were innovative." Mrs. Worthington looked at me like I'd spoken out of turn. Which I had, technically. "And you are the photographer. And someone who actually understands art." "Chloe," Hannah said quietly, a warning. But I was rolling now, years of watching people diminish artists activating something protective in me. Hannah's installations were featured in the school art show that got reviewed by the Portland Museum. They wanted to include her work in a youth exhibition. She turned them down, but not because the work wasn't good enough. The work was exceptional. "How nice," Mrs. Worthington said, already dismissing me. Well, thank goodness she chose wedding design instead. Much more appropriate for Brighton Cove. She wandered off, leaving awkward silence. "I didn't need you to defend me," Hannah said, smiles still in place but eyes flashing. She was being dismissive. "She's a client's mother at an event I'm coordinating. I can't afford to make waves." "So you just take it? Let people trivialize your work." "My work is coordinating weddings. That's what I chose. What I'm good at. But it's not all you are. Stop trying to save me from choices I made." Her voice was low, urgent. "You don't get to swoop in after 11 years and decide I need rescuing. This is my life. I built it deliberately. By hiding everything interesting about yourself. By surviving in the town I never left. You have no idea what that requires." We were drawing attention now, people noticing the tension between the coordinator and photographer. Hannah took a breath, forcing her professional mask back into place. "I need to check on the dessert table." She walked away, leaving me feeling like I'd misstepped catastrophically. The rest of the shower passed in stilted awkwardness. Hannah avoided me except for necessary coordination. When our eyes did meet, hers were carefully blank. I'd hurt her. Trying to help, I'd hurt her. After the shower ended, I helped pack up equipment in tense silence. Finally, Hannah spoke. "You can't do that." "I know. I'm sorry." "I mean it, Chloe. You can't charge in like my life is wrong just because it's different from yours. I'm not some damsel trapped in her tower. I made choices. They weren't always the choices I wanted, but they were mine. I know that. Do you? Because it seems like you've decided I'm just a coward who gave up, and you're the brave one who escaped. That's not. Isn't it? You look at my wedding business like it's selling out. My hidden studio like it's the real me imprisoned by circumstances. But maybe coordinating weddings doesn't have to be less than. Maybe it's just different than." She was right. I had been judging her, comparing her life to some imaginary version where she'd followed the path I thought she should take. "You're right, I admit it. I've been projecting my own stuff onto your choices. Your art, your business, your life, they're all valid. You don't need my approval or rescue." "Thank you." She softened slightly. "But I do feel trapped sometimes. You're not entirely wrong. I just need to be the one who decides when and how to change that." "Fair enough." We finished packing in more comfortable silence. "Are we okay?" I asked finally. "I don't know. Are we anything?" Loaded question. The answer felt enormous. "I think I want us to be," I said carefully. "Wanting isn't enough though. We're still in the same impossible situation. You're leaving. I'm staying. Unless something changes, we're just delaying heartbreak." "What if something changes?" "Like what?" You suddenly want to live in Brighton Cove? I abandoned my business to move to New York? Neither of those things is happening. Maybe there's an option we haven't thought of yet. Or maybe we're trying to force something that doesn't work because we regret how it ended before. Maybe this is just us getting closure. Does this feel like closure to you? She looked at me, and I saw everything she was feeling: want, frustration, fear, hope, all tangled together. No, she admitted. It feels like beginning something right when we have to end it. Terrible timing. The worst. Very yes. She almost smiled. Very yes. We stood in the empty shower venue, surrounded by the remnants of celebration, both of us acknowledging what we couldn't solve. One more week, she said. Can we just have this one more week without figuring everything out? It was avoidance. We both knew it. Yeah, I agreed. One more week. We kissed goodbye, gentle and melancholic. A kiss that tasted like borrowed time. The week leading to the wedding was chaos: rehearsal, dinner logistics, last-minute floral emergencies, Avery's predictable pre-wedding meltdown. Hannah handled everything with grace. I documented everything with detachment. We stole moments when we could: quick kisses between events, late nights at her apartment, conversations that skirted around the inevitable. I kept photographing her hidden artwork, building a portfolio I'd promised to send to galleries. She didn't stop me, but she didn't seem particularly hopeful either. Nothing will come of it, she said one night, watching me edit images. You don't know that. This is Brighton Cove isn't a launching pad for art careers. I've made peace with that. What if you didn't have to? What if you could have both the business here and the art career elsewhere? That's called having it all, Chloe. It's a myth. Or it's called building a life on your terms instead of accepting limitations other people set. She looked at me seriously. Is that what you've done? Built life on your terms. I thought so. Now I'm not sure. What changed? Coming back here. Seeing you. Remembering what it felt like to create art that mattered instead of art that sells. Your fashion work matters. Does it? Or is it just pretty pictures in magazines that end up in landfills? Now who's diminishing their own work? She had a point. I'd been as hard on myself as I'd been on her. Maybe we're both stuck, I said. Just in different places. Or maybe we've both been telling ourselves stories about who we are and what we want, and those stories are protecting us from risk. What risk? The risk of trying. Of failing. Of admitting we might want something different than what we've built. I looked at the images on my laptop, her art, wild and challenging. Then at her, curled on the couch in old pajamas, walls finally down. What do you want, Hannah? Really want? She was quiet for a long moment. I want to stop choosing between being successful here or being true to myself. I want both. I want my business and my art. I want this town that's my home and a bigger world that sees my work. I want safety and adventure. I want... What? You. I want you. But not as a secret. Not as a 2-week affair. I want you in my life in a way that doesn't require me to choose between you and everything else. My heart hurt. That's asking for a lot. I know. Which is why I haven't asked. Because you can't give me that. You don't know. Yes, I do. Chloe, you've been planning your exit since you arrived. Every conversation we have, you're already leaving. You're present but temporary. That's who you are. That's who I was. Maybe I'm changing. Maybe. Or maybe you're caught up in nostalgia and small-town romance, and this will all feel ridiculous once you're back in your real life. You're my real life. Am I? Or am I the path not taken? The what if you're finally exploring before you move on? I wanted to argue, but some of what she said landed uncomfortably close to truth. I don't know, I admitted. I don't know how to be the person who stays. I never learned that. And I never learned how to leave. So we're at an impasse. Unless one of us changes. People don't change fundamentally. Not really. We are who we are. That's bleak. That's realistic. She closed my laptop gently. Let's not solve this tonight. Let's just what? Be together without the ending looming. So we did. We pretended we had more time than a few days. Pretended geography didn't matter. Pretended love was enough. It was the best kind of self-deception. The wedding day arrived with predictably perfect weather, sunny, mild ocean breeze. Avery was stressed, Bradford was bland, and Hannah was everywhere, orchestrating perfection. I photographed mechanically. Bride getting ready, emotional pre-ceremony moments, guests arriving. All standard wedding photography beats. My heart wasn't in it. Behind my camera, I watched Hannah coordinate the ceremony with flawless execution. Everything happened exactly on schedule, exactly as planned. It was impressive. It was heartbreaking, because this was what she chose. This safe, profitable, expected path. And I couldn't even judge her for it anymore. We were both trapped by our choices. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Avery and Bradford looked happy, if somewhat generic. The lighthouse sunset provided dramatic backdrop. I captured stunning images despite my emotional numbness. Afterward, at the reception, I found my father. "You okay, Chloe Bear?" "Not really." "Want to talk about it?" "Not really." He nodded, understanding. "You leaving right after this?" "Tomorrow morning. Early bus." "Of course you are." He didn't say it harshly, just sadly. "Dad, I'm not judging. You've built a good life in New York. I'm proud of you. But I wish you'd let yourself be happy. Actually happy, not just successful." "Who says I'm not happy?" "Your photographs do." "You know what's missing from your recent work?" "Joy." "You capture beauty brilliantly, but there's no joy in it. Just technique." "Since when are you an art critic?" "Since I've been looking at your work for 29 years. Your high school stuff had joy. Even when it was moody or dark, there was love in it. Now it's just cold." I wanted to argue. Couldn't. "I don't know how to be different than I am." "You don't have to be different. Just more yourself. The self you were before you decided feelings were weakness. Feelings are messy. Feelings are human. You're allowed to be human, sweetheart." He kissed my forehead and left me to process that. I slipped away from the reception, needing air. Found myself at the lighthouse, away from the party noise. Hannah found me there. Hiding. Contemplating. She sat next to me on the rocks, close but not touching. We watched the ocean in silence. "Tomorrow," she said finally. "Tomorrow. Back to New York. Back to your life." "Yeah." And this was, what? Nice while it lasted. I turned to look at her. Really look. She was stunning in the sunset, hair loose, makeup subtle, wearing the elegant dress she'd chosen for the reception. But beyond the external beauty, I saw her exhaustion. The toll of being perfect. "This was everything," I said. "These 2 weeks with you have been more real than the last 2 years of my life. But not real enough to stay." "Is that what you want?" "For me to stay. I want you to want to stay." "That's different." I stopped, trying to articulate something I'd never let myself consider. "I want a life where I can be honest. Where I can make art that matters. Where I can love you openly. But I don't know if I'm capable of building that life here. Because here isn't New York. Because here is where I learned to hide in the first place. Coming back feels like regression. Or it could be evolution. Returning as the person you've become instead of the scared kid who left." "Hannah, I know you're leaving tomorrow. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm just saying that maybe neither of our lives is quite right. Maybe we're both compromising pieces of ourselves we shouldn't. So what do we do about it?" "I don't know." She stood, brushing off her dress. "I need to get back to the reception. Make sure everything's running smoothly for the grand exit. Always working. Always." She paused. "Will I see you before you leave? Do you want to?" "I want a lot of things I can't have." She walked back toward the party, leaving me with the ocean and my tangled thoughts. That night, I packed my bag, looked at my childhood bedroom one last time, said goodbye to Dad, who hugged me tight and told me he loved me. "You know where to find me if you need me," he said. "I know. And Chloe? Whatever you decide about your life, about Hannah, about any of it, make sure it's what you actually want. not what you think you should want. How do I know the difference? The thing you actually want will scare you more. I left him with that wisdom and boarded the early bus out of Brighton Cove. Watched the town shrink in the rearview window, same as I had 11 years ago. Except this time felt different. Heavier. More like running away than running toward. On the bus, I pulled out my camera and scrolled through the images from the past 2 weeks. Wedding photos, yes, but also the candid shots I'd taken when I thought no one was paying attention. Dad laughing at something Avery said, his face crinkled with genuine joy. The harbor at dawn, fishing boats heading out, gritty and beautiful. Mrs. Henderson arranging produce at her store, pride in her local business. Tommy working on his truck, grease-stained and content. And Hannah. So many photos of Hannah. Not the professional coordinator version, but the real one. Hannah in her secret studio, surrounded by wild installations, face alight with creative passion. Hannah laughing at something I'd said, unguarded. Hannah sleeping in her bed, vulnerable and soft. I'd captured Brighton Cove's truth, not the postcard version, but the complex reality. A place that was simultaneously stifling and sustaining, judgmental and caring, stuck and stable. The photos were some of the best work I'd done in years. Raw, honest, emotionally present. Everything my fashion photography wasn't. Dad was right. I'd lost the joy somewhere along the way. Replaced passion with professionalism, meaning with marketability. When had I stopped caring whether my work mattered? When had I stopped caring about anything? By the time the bus reached New York, I'd made a decision. Several decisions, actually. Back in my apartment, Marco took one look at my face and poured wine. That bad? Complicated. Complicated how? Did you hook up with your high school ex? Is it that obvious? Chloe, you left scowling and came back looking emotionally devastated. Either you hooked up with your ex or you accidentally joined a cult. I'm hoping it's the ex. I collapsed on our battered couch, wine in hand. I think I made a huge mistake. Going to the wedding? Leaving Brighton Cove. Again. Still. Whatever. Marco settled next to me. Tell me everything. So I did. The whole messy story, Hannah, the wedding, the reconnection, the impossibility of geography and different life paths. Here's my question, Marco said when I finished. Do you love her? That's not the relevant question. It's the only relevant question. Everything else is logistics. Logistics matter. I can't exactly commute to Maine for a relationship. Why not? People do long distance. Or you could, crazy thought, consider moving. To Brighton Cove? Are you insane? I left that place for a reason. Yeah, because you were 18 and heartbroken. You're 29 now. Different person, different circumstances. It's still a town of 3,000 people who all know each other's business. And New York is a city of 8 million people where you don't know your neighbors. Neither is inherently better. They're just different. You're supposed to tell me I made the right choice. Support my decisions. I'm supporting you by telling you the truth. You've been miserable for months, Chloe. Maybe years. Going through the motions, taking jobs that pay well but bore you, avoiding anything that feels too personal. Then you go to this wedding and suddenly you're sending me midnight texts about botanical art installations and the way someone's laugh sounds. I didn't. You did. For separate texts about her laugh. That's not someone who doesn't care. This is why I don't do relationships. Because you might accidentally feel things? Weak excuse. I wanted to argue, but he wasn't wrong. I'd built an entire personality around not caring, and 2 weeks with Hannah had demolished that carefully constructed indifference. What if I try and it doesn't work? What if we're just nostalgic exes mistaking history for compatibility? What if you don't try and spend the rest of your life wondering? Which risk scares you more? I didn't have to think about the answer. Dad had already given it to me. The thing you actually want will scare you more. And trying with Hannah, really trying, terrified me more than any alternative. I need to send some emails, I said. Marco grinned. Now we're talking. I spent the next 3 hours at my laptop. First, I compiled the best images of Hannah's botanical installations into a professional portfolio. Then I drafted emails to every gallery contact I had in Portland, Boston, and New York who specialized in contemporary botanical or environmental art. The emails were honest. I discovered an exceptional emerging artist whose work deserved attention. I wasn't representing her officially, wasn't asking for favors. Just wanted the right people to see the work. I hit send on all of them before I could second-guess myself. Then I opened a new email. Stared at the blank screen for 20 minutes. Finally, I wrote, Subject, the only thing I care about. Hannah. Attached are the images I took of your work. I've sent them to gallery contacts in 3 cities. I'm not expecting miracles, but your art deserves to be seen by people who understand it. Also attached, photos from Brighton Cove. Not the wedding shots. Those are getting edited separately, but the candid moments. Your town through my eyes. Thought you might want to see what I saw. I spent 11 years telling myself I didn't care about anything. 2 weeks with you proved that was a lie. I care about your work. I care about your dreams. I care about you, past tense, present tense, probably future tense. Asterisk, I don't have solutions. I don't know how to make our lives compatible. But I know running away again is the wrong answer. Asterisk. I'm not asking you to wait for me to figure out my life. I'm just saying I'm figuring it out. And you're part of that equation, whether it's convenient or not. Love, Chloe. I attached the files, hit send, and immediately panicked. Marco, I think I just did something incredibly stupid. About time. Stupidity is underrated. What if she doesn't respond? Then she doesn't respond. But at least you tried. I checked my email obsessively for the next hour. Nothing. Then I made myself stop. Closed my laptop, went to bed, tried to sleep. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A text from an unknown number that I somehow knew was Hannah. I got your email. And the photos. And I don't know what to say except thank you. And also, I care about you too. It's scary, but I do. I stared at those words for a long time. Not a solution, but an acknowledgement. A reciprocation. A start. We're going to figure this out, I texted back. Are we? We have to. I didn't come this far to give up now. You're in New York. I'm in Maine. That's pretty far. Geography is just logistics. Marco said so. Who's Marco? My roommate. Self-appointed relationship counselor. You'd like him. There was a pause then. I'd like to meet the people in your life. My chest tightened. That was intimacy, wanting to know someone's world, not just their body. You will, I promised. When? Soon. I need to arrange some things first. That sounds ominous. Not ominous. Just. I'm figuring out what my life should look like instead of what it defaults to. That sounds healthy. And scary. Terrifying. Worth it though. Another pause. Then, one of your gallery contacts already responded. The Portland Contemporary wants to schedule a studio visit. I sat bolt upright in bed. Marco. He stumbled into my room, half asleep. Fire? Emergency? Celebrity death. Hannah got a gallery response. That's why you're screaming at 2 a.m.? This is huge. The Portland Contemporary is legit. If they like her work, then she might have options beyond wedding flowers. I get it. Can I go back to sleep now? How are you not more excited? I'll be excited at a reasonable hour. Right now I'm exhausted. He shuffled back to his room. I texted Hannah. This is just the beginning. Your work is incredible. People are going to see that. I'm scared. Good. Means it matters. Easy for you to say. You're already successful. I'm successful at taking pictures of clothes. Not the same as making meaningful art. You're about to do something real. What if they hate it? Impossible. But even if they do, there will be others. I promise. Why are you doing this for me? Because you deserve it. Because your art matters. Because I stopped, cursor blinking. 3 little words that felt enormous. Because you what? I took a breath and typed, because I love you. Have loved you. Probably never stopped. The response took several minutes. When it came, it was just, oh. Then, I love you too. We texted until dawn, the way we used to stay up talking in high school. About everything and nothing. Dreams, fears, what we'd have for breakfast. It felt like the beginning. Over the next week, things started shifting. The Portland gallery scheduled Hannah's studio visit. Then a gallery in Boston reached out. Then one in New York. Meanwhile, I started making calls. My agent thought I was having a breakdown when I told her I wanted to pivot away from fashion photography toward documentary and artistic work. Chloe, you're at the peak of your fashion career. Designers are requesting you specifically. Why would you walk away? Because I'm bored. Because the work doesn't mean anything. Because I want to create images that matter. Fashion matters. To some people. Not to me. Not anymore. This is about that girl from your hometown, isn't it? How did you? You sent me those botanical installation photos. They're stunning, by the way. But they're also clearly shot by someone in love. You never shoot fashion with that kind of tenderness. I couldn't argue with that assessment. So, what do you want to do? She asked. Documentary work. Artistic portraits. Editorial pieces about real people, not models. I want to photograph stories, not products. That's a completely different market. Different rates, different clients, different reputation to build. I know. It's risky. Everything worth doing is risky. She sighed. When did you become an optimist? Recently. It's unsettling. Fine. I'll put out feelers. But don't expect to maintain your current income. Noted. I hung up feeling simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. I was dismantling the life I'd built, but it had been built on foundations of fear and avoidance. Maybe it was time to build something better. My parents would have called it growth. I called it frightening. Hannah's studio visit with Portland Contemporary went exceptionally well. They wanted to feature her work in their summer exhibition, 3 pieces, with potential for solo show if the reception was positive. I wanted to celebrate with her in person, but she was in Maine and I was in New York. So we celebrated over video chat, me drinking wine in my apartment, her drinking tea in her studio. I can't believe this is happening, she said, face glowing through the screen. I can. Your work is extraordinary. But it's scary. What if people don't understand it? What if Brighton Cove thinks I've abandoned my wedding business? You're not abandoning anything. You're expanding. Adding dimension to your life. Easier said than done in a small town. People have expectations. Then maybe it's time to challenge those expectations. Show them you can be both the reliable wedding coordinator and the boundary-pushing artist. What if they don't accept both versions? Then they don't. But at least you're being authentic instead of hiding. She was quiet for a moment. You've changed. So have you. Have I? Or am I just finally doing what I should have done years ago? Does it matter? Growth is growth, whether it's change or reclamation. When did you become wise? Recently. Also unsettling. She laughed, and God, I missed that laugh. Missed being in the same room with it, seeing her face light up, feeling the warmth of her joy. I miss you, I said. I miss you too. When are you coming back? Back? To visit. To see me. To be in the same geographic location instead of staring at screens. Soon. I'm arranging work stuff, but soon. How soon? 2 weeks. Her face transformed. Really? Really. I'm planning to shoot a documentary series on small coastal towns in Maine. Brighton Cove might be featured prominently. That's convenient. Incredibly convenient. Almost suspiciously so. What's the series actually about? Communities, tradition, evolution. How places stay themselves while adapting. How people balance preservation and progress. I paused. Also, how the outsider who left comes to understand what she missed. That's very specific. Documentary work is all about specificity. And you're definitely coming back? Definitely. I mean, I'll need a local guide. Someone who knows the town intimately. Preferably someone beautiful and talented who makes exceptional coffee. I know several people who fit that description, but only one I want to kiss. She blushed, even through the screen. We should probably discuss what this is. Us. Long-distance dating? Casual reconnection? Inevitable heartbreak? How about two people figuring it out as they go? No predetermined ending. That's scary. Most worthwhile things are. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true. We talked until her tea went cold and my wine was gone. Made plans for my visit, where I'd stay, her apartment, if that was okay, which it absolutely was, what we'd do, work during the day, each other at night, how we'd handle Brighton Cove's inevitable gossip, honestly, finally. After we hung up, I sat in my dim apartment feeling something unfamiliar, hope. The 2 weeks until my trip felt endless. I worked on portfolio restructuring, reached out to documentary organizations, researched grant opportunities for artistic projects. My fashion clients were confused by my pivot, but a few were supportive. One designer I'd worked with for years sent a surprising email. "Chloe, I've been watching your work evolve. The fashion shots are technically perfect, but emotionally empty. Whatever you did in Maine woke something up. Your recent portfolio pieces have depth I haven't seen in your work before. Follow that. Create what matters. The industry will catch up or it won't, but you'll be making art that lasts." I saved that email. Read it whenever I doubted myself. Hannah sent updates about her gallery prep, pieces being transported, installation design, marketing materials. She was nervous and excited in equal measure. "What if no one comes to the opening?" she asked during one of our nightly calls. "Then we'll be alone with exceptional art and good wine." Sounds perfect. You'll come? To the opening? I wouldn't miss it. When is it? 3 months from now. July. I'll be there. Front row. You can't sit during gallery openings. Then I'll stand front row. You know what I mean. She smiled, soft and genuine. Thank you. For believing in my work when I didn't. Thank you for showing it to me. For trusting me with your secret art. It's not secret anymore. How does that feel? Daunting. Liberating. Both. The best things usually are. Finally, the day came. I boarded a bus to Brighton Cove, same route as before, but entirely different emotional journey. This time I wasn't running away. I was running towards something. Hannah met me at the station, and seeing her in person after 3 weeks apart hit me like weather, overwhelming, all-encompassing. We stood there like idiots, just staring at each other, until she laughed and kissed me right there in public, in Brighton Cove, where anyone could see. That was bold, I said when we broke apart. I'm working on bold. How'd I do? 10 out of 10. A+ boldness. She grabbed my bag, and we walked through town together. People definitely noticed. Mrs. Henderson waved with knowing enthusiasm. Tommy gave a thumbs up from his truck. Sarah with the blonde hair smiled warmly. Did everyone know about us in high school? I asked. Probably. Small towns aren't subtle. They were just waiting to see if we'd acknowledge it. And now? Now we're acknowledging it. On our terms. Finally. Her apartment above the flower shop felt like coming home. Familiar from my previous visit, but somehow more welcoming. She'd cleared space in her closet for my clothes, bought my favorite coffee, left flowers on the nightstand. You're domesticating me, I said. Is that a complaint? An observation. Possibly a pleased observation. We spent the afternoon in her shop, me photographing her work on wedding arrangements while she prepped for an upcoming event. She explained her process, how she thought about color theory, emotional resonance, visual flow. You bring the same artistic intensity to weddings that you do to your installations, I observed. Of course. Just because something is commercial doesn't mean it can't be art. I was wrong to think they were separate. And I was wrong to judge wedding coordination as less than. It's just different than. Both can be valid. Look at us, learning and growing. Gross. When did we become people who learn and grow? Right around the time we decided fear was boring. That evening, we walked to the lighthouse. stood where the wedding ceremony had been held, now empty except for ocean wind and fading light. I hated this spot when I arrived, I admitted. It represented everything I'd lost. Now it feels like where everything started again. Circles, Hannah said. We came back to where we began, but different. Better. Definitely better. We know ourselves now. Separately, individually. That makes being together actually possible. As opposed to? As opposed to being together because we're scared to be alone. Or because we think we're supposed to. This feels like choice, not desperation. I pulled her close, both of us facing the ocean. I choose you. Complicated geography, different life paths, uncertain future, I still choose you. I choose you too. Cynical photographer, emotional disaster, secretly soft heart, I choose all of it. We're going to have to figure out logistics eventually. Eventually. Not tonight. What's tonight for? Tonight is for celebrating that we're both brave enough to try. That's worth celebrating. So we did. Went back to her apartment, cooked dinner together, talked until late. Made love slowly, learning each other with more time and less urgency than before. Afterward, lying in her bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Contentment. Not happiness exactly, too complicated for simple happiness, but deep, genuine contentment with where I was and who I was with. I could get used to this, I murmured. You better. I'm planning to keep you around. How long term are we talking? How long do you have? Well, my return bus ticket is open-ended. And I pitched a 3-month documentary project to a grant foundation. And my lease in Brooklyn is up in 2 months. So, potentially significant long-term. She propped herself up, looking at me seriously. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I've been doing research. Brighton Cove has reliable internet, decent proximity to Portland for gallery connections, and significantly cheaper rent than Brooklyn. I could base myself here while traveling for documentary work. If you wanted that. If I wanted, she stopped, emotions cycling across her face. Chloe Moretti, are you saying you want to move to Brighton Cove? I'm saying I want to move toward you. If that means Brighton Cove, I can handle Brighton Cove. Turns out the town isn't the enemy. My own fear was. But your whole career is in New York. My old career was in New York. My new career is wherever I point my camera. Preferably near you. This is insane. Completely insane. You hate small towns. I hated being closeted in a small town. Being openly myself in a small town might be different. Might be. Or might be exactly as suffocating. Only one way to find out. She kissed me, deep and thorough. You're serious about this. Very serious. We've known each other again for 5 weeks. We've known each other for 11 years. 5 weeks recently, but the foundation is decade old. That's romantic thinking, not logical thinking. When has love ever been logical? She laughed, kissing me again. Point made. So you'd really move here? Give up New York. I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something better. There's a difference. And if it doesn't work out? If we don't work out, then I'll have spent time creating meaningful art in a beautiful place with someone I love. Worst case scenario doesn't sound so bad. You're impossible. You love it. I really do. She settled against me, head on my chest. My gallery opening is in 3 months. Maybe you could stay until then? Test the waters before making permanent decisions. I can do 3 months. See how we function in daily life instead of stolen moments. Deal. But I'm warning you, I'm messy in the mornings, I sing off-key in the shower, and I will absolutely make you help with wedding setups. I'm grumpy until coffee. I work weird hours, and I will absolutely judge your Netflix choices. Sounds perfectly imperfect. The best things usually are. We fell asleep tangled together, windows open to ocean sounds. For the first time in a decade, Brighton Cove felt like possibility instead of prison. The next 3 months were education in cohabitation, compromise, and being visible. I set up a workspace in the corner of Hannah's studio, photographing her process while working on my documentary project. She worked on wedding coordination while preparing pieces for her gallery opening. We developed rhythms. Morning coffee together, separate work during the day, evening walks. Some nights she'd come to bed smelling like flowers and exhaustion. Other nights I'd work until 2 a.m. editing photos. We learned each other's patterns, needs, boundaries. Brighton Cove's reaction to us being openly together was anticlimactic, actually. Most people were supportive or indifferent. Mrs. Henderson made a point of telling us we were adorable. Tommy asked if we wanted to double date with him and his girlfriend. Even Avery's mother was diplomatically pleasant. Turns out the town's judgment I'd feared was partly projection, partly outdated memory. Brighton Cove had evolved in my absence. Or maybe I'd evolved enough to see it differently. There were awkward moments, sure. The occasional sidelong glance, one homophobic comment from a tourist that Hannah shut down with impressive steel. But overall, being openly together was surprisingly fine. We built it up in our heads, Hannah said one evening, walking home from dinner at the harbor. The town's disapproval. Turns out most people don't care nearly as much as we thought. Or they care but keep it to themselves. Either way, we're okay. We're actually okay. Revolutionary concept. My documentary project was coming together beautifully. I interviewed lifelong Brighton Cove residents, captured the town through seasons, documented the intersection of tradition and change. The footage was genuine, nuanced, nothing like my fashion work. This mattered. This felt like art. Hannah's gallery prep intensified as opening night approached. She was nervous to the point of nausea some days, exhilarated others. I photographed her process, capturing her intensity and vulnerability. "Stop making me look dramatic," she said during one studio session. "I'm not making you anything. I'm documenting reality. You're dramatic when you create. That's not very romantic. It's honest. Honesty is romantic." The gallery opening arrived with perfect July weather. The Portland Contemporary was hosting a group show featuring 5 emerging artists, with Hannah's work as a centerpiece. Her 3 installations dominated the main gallery space, wild, unsettling, absolutely stunning. I wore actual color for the occasion, a deep green shirt that Hannah had bought me, claiming I needed at least one item that wasn't black or gray. "You look good," she said, adjusting my collar nervously. "You look terrified." "I am terrified. Your work is incredible. People are going to lose their minds. Or they'll hate it." Impossible. The gallery filled quickly. Art collectors, critics, curious locals. I stayed close to Hannah, hand in her back, silent support. Then people started engaging with her work. Really engaging, standing in front of pieces for long minutes, discussing them intensely, asking Hannah thoughtful questions about her process and vision. One art critic from the Portland Press spent 20 minutes examining her thorn and feather piece, taking notes, photographing details. "This is extraordinary," she told Hannah. "I haven't seen botanical work this provocative since early eco-art movements. You're doing something completely unique." Hannah glowed. Actual glowed with validation and pride. The gallery director approached us mid-evening. "Hannah, we need to discuss your solo show. How does November work for you?" "Solo show?" Hannah's voice squeaked slightly. "Absolutely. Tonight's response has been overwhelming. We want to feature your full body of work. Can you put together 15 pieces by November?" Yes. Yes, I can do that." After the director walked away, Hannah turned to me, eyes wide. "Did that just happen?" "That absolutely just happened. You're getting a solo show." "Oh my God. Oh my God, indeed." She kissed me right there in the gallery, not caring who saw. When we broke apart, she was smiling so wide it probably hurt. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't do anything. This is all you. You believed in me when I didn't. You pushed me to show my work. None of this happens without you. Pretty sure your talent is the operative factor here. You're insufferable. You love it." "I really do." The opening was universally successful. Hannah fielded questions, made connections, collected business cards from interested buyers. She was in her element, confident, articulate, passionate about her work. This was Hannah fully realized. Wedding coordinator and boundary-pushing artist. Small-town business owner and Portland art scene emerging talent. She didn't have to choose. She could be both. After the gallery cleared, we walked Portland's Old Port, high on adrenaline and success. I can't believe this is my life now, she said. This morning I was coordinating a Bridezilla's flower crisis. Tonight I'm an exhibiting artist with a solo show scheduled. You contain multitudes. Apparently. Turns out I don't have to be just one thing. None of us do. We just convince ourselves we have to choose. She stopped walking, turning to face me seriously. I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. Not ominous. Important. She took a breath. I love you. Completely, complicatedly, probably forever. And I know we've been taking this 3 months at a time, not making permanent plans. But I want permanent plans. I want you here in Brighton Cove, building a life together. I want to coordinate weddings and create art and come home to you every night. I want complicated and real and long-term. My heart did that thing where it felt simultaneously too large and perfectly sized for my chest. I want that too, I said. I want to document stories and photograph your installations and build something that isn't just professional success, something that's actually meaningful. With you. In Brighton Cove or wherever, but preferably with you. So we're doing this? Actually doing this? We're doing this. She kissed me, and Portland's streetlights and ocean breeze and distant laughter created perfect backdrop for our imperfect, complicated, absolutely right love story. We were doing this. 6 months later, I was in Hannah's studio, our studio now, technically, since I'd officially moved in, editing photos from her November solo show while she worked on an installation for an upcoming show in Boston. My documentary series had been picked up by a grant foundation and was scheduled to premiere at a film festival in the spring. I had regular assignments from documentary organizations, editorial magazines that wanted authentic stories instead of fashion spreads. The work was less lucrative than fashion photography, but infinitely more satisfying. Hannah's solo show had been a massive success. She'd sold 6 pieces, gotten written up in 3 regional art publications, and been invited to show work at a contemporary art fair in New York. Her wedding business was thriving too. Turns out being a gallery showing artist made her more desirable as a coordinator, not less. Clients wanted the cash of having a real artist design their events. She'd learned to balance both worlds. Some weeks were more weddings, some more art. The combination seemed to energize rather than exhaust her. Come look at this, she called from across the studio. I set down my laptop and joined her. She'd created something new, a piece incorporating dried flowers, wire, mirrors, and pieces of driftwood from Brighton Cove's beaches. It was stunning and strange, familiar and alien. What do you think? I think it's incredible. What's it called? Coming Home. It's about returning to a place you left, seeing it differently, building something new from familiar materials. So it's autobiographical. We're all autobiographical if we're honest. I photographed the piece from multiple angles, capturing its complexity. Through the lens, I saw echoes of our story, sharp edges and soft curves, painful elements creating beautiful whole. This one's not for sale, Hannah said. No. This one's ours. For the home we're building. I like that. She moved a branch, adjusting its position. Our hands brushed, and she caught my fingers, squeezing. Happy? She asked. I considered the question. Was I happy? In Brighton Cove, the town I'd sworn never to return to, living with my high school ex in her apartment above a flower shop, creating documentary work instead of fashion spreads. Building a life that looked nothing like what I'd planned. Yeah, I said. Surprisingly, genuinely happy. Even here? In suffocating small-town Maine. Turns out it's less suffocating when you're living authentically. When you're with someone who sees you completely. When you're creating work that matters. Look at you, having healthy relationship realizations. Gross. Don't tell anyone. She laughed, kissing me softly. Your secret's safe with me. Outside, the ocean was doing its ocean thing, waves and wind and timeless rhythm. Brighton Cove was settling into evening, lights coming on in houses, boats returning to harbor, the smell of dinner cooking somewhere nearby. 11 years ago, I'd left this place broken and certain I'd never belong here. Now I was building a home here, not despite who I was, but because of who I'd become. Hannah returned to her installation, humming off-key like she did when she was content. I picked up my camera, photographing her at work, wild hair, paint-stained fingers, face lit with creative concentration. Through the lens, I captured truth, complicated love in a small town, art emerging from hidden places, two people brave enough to choose each other despite geography and history and fear. The shutter clicked. This was my life now. Messy, imperfect, nothing like I'd planned. Absolutely everything I needed. I didn't do weddings. But I did do love. Finally, completely. And that made all the difference.